Have you ever imagined being mistaken for a criminal by a machine? For Robert Williams, a simple error in face recognition technology turned his life upside down, leading to a terrifying wrongful arrest in front of his young daughters. The scene was nothing short of a nightmare for Robert Williams and his family. Imagine this: a quiet Detroit suburb, a regular day where Robert, a black man, is going about his life like any other person. Suddenly, everything shatters. Police cars pull up to his house, and before he even knows what's happening, Robert is being arrested on his own front lawn. It's hard to wrap your head around this unless you're there, seeing it unfold. Robert's wife, Melissa, is standing just a few feet away, trying to hold it together, while their two little girls, aged just 2 and 5, are watching in shock and confusion. You can almost feel the tension in the air, can't you? Robert's daughters, too young to fully understand, are witnessing their father being treated like a criminal right in front of their own home. The trust and safety they should feel in their own family space are instantly shattered. You can imagine Melissa's heart sinking as she tries to keep her girls calm, probably whispering to them that everything will be okay, even though she's not sure it will be. And then, the arrest itself. It's not a quiet, private moment. No, this happens in broad daylight, in front of neighbors and passers-by. The police, convinced by a faulty face recognition system that Robert is a suspect in a robbery, don't hesitate. They handcuff him right there, on his front lawn, as if he's some kind of dangerous criminal. But here's the kicker: Robert did nothing wrong. The only thing that tied him to the crime was a computer's mistake, but that didn't stop the police from treating him as guilty. The whole issue with face recognition technology, especially how it played out in Robert Williams' case. You've probably heard about this tech before. It's supposed to help law enforcement identify suspects by matching faces caught on camera with photos in a database. Sounds pretty advanced, right? In theory, it's a way to quickly catch criminals by comparing a snapshot from a security camera to, say, driver's license photos or mugshots. The idea is that this technology can scan through thousands of faces in seconds and pick out the one that matches. But here's the catch. While it sounds like something straight out of a futuristic crime movie, in reality, it's far from perfect. One of the biggest issues with face recognition technology is its inherent bias. I know, it's hard to believe that something as seemingly objective as a computer could be biased, but the data doesn't lie. Study after study has shown that this technology struggles to accurately identify people of color, especially black people. The algorithms behind face recognition were mostly trained on datasets that don't include a diverse enough range of faces. So, when the technology is applied in real-world situations, it often fails to distinguish between individuals who share similar skin tones and facial features. This isn't just a minor glitch, it's a flaw that can have serious, life-altering consequences. Take Robert's case, for example. The face recognition software used by Michigan State Police misidentified him as a suspect in a robbery. The only thing Robert had in common with the actual suspect? Both were large-framed black men. That's it. The technology didn't pick up on the differences in their facial features or the fact that Robert was nowhere near the crime scene when the robbery happened. It just lumped him into the same category, because the algorithm wasn't sophisticated enough to tell them apart. But the tech isn't the only problem here. The human element made things even worse. After the software flagged Robert as the suspect, the police didn't stop to double-check the accuracy. Instead, they put Robert's driver's license photo in a lineup with other black men and showed it to the shop's security guard, who hadn't even witnessed the robbery firsthand. The guard looked at a blurry surveillance image and, based on nothing more than a vague resemblance, claimed that Robert was the guy. That was all the police needed to make an arrest. No further investigation, no questioning the validity of the technology's results, just blind trust in a flawed system. This whole process was rushed and biased from the start. Once the face recognition software pointed its digital finger at Robert, the police seemed more focused on fitting him into their narrative than actually solving the crime. It's like they were working backwards, starting with a suspect, provided by the technology and then trying to make the rest of the evidence fit. And when parts of the puzzle didn't add up, like the fact that Robert looks nothing like the actual suspect or that he was far from the crime scene, those details were brushed aside. When you think about what happened to Robert Williams, it's impossible not to consider the deep emotional and psychological scars it left on him and his family. Imagine being in Robert's shoes for a moment. The frustration must have been overwhelming. How do you even begin to process something like that? To be accused of a crime you didn't commit is one thing, but to have that accusation come from a faceless machine? It's beyond maddening. Robert had to spend nearly 30 hours in a filthy cell, knowing all the while that this was all because of a botched computer match. No one listened when he said it wasn't him, and the realization that the system trusted a flawed machine over his own word is something that would haunt anyone. But perhaps the most heartbreaking aspect of all this is the impact it had on Robert's daughters. They're just little kids, 2 and 5 years old, and their first real experience with the police is seeing their dad get dragged away in handcuffs. How do you explain that to them? Daddy didn't do anything wrong, but the police made a mistake. It's something no child should ever have to hear. This incident is now etched into their minds, shaping how they see the world and how they see the police. The innocence of their childhood was shattered in that moment, and that's something you can't ever fully repair. The psychological impact on the family is compounded by the social and professional consequences they had to face. Robert's wife, Melissa, had to call his employer and explain why her husband wouldn't be coming into work. Can you imagine how that conversation must have gone? He's been arrested, but it's all a mistake. Even if the charges were dropped, that stigma doesn't just disappear. People talk, and rumors spread. It's the kind of thing that can stick with you, affecting how others see you at work, in your neighborhood, even among friends and family. And this isn't just about Robert's family. This kind of incident sends ripples through the entire community, particularly within Black families who already live with the fear that something like this could happen to them. It's a fear that's been passed down through generations, born out of countless stories of wrongful arrests, police brutality, and systemic racism. When you see something like this happen to someone you know, or even just hear about it, that fear becomes even more real. It's a reminder that no matter how careful you are, no matter how law-abiding, you could still end up on the wrong side of a system that's stacked against you. On a broader level, Robert's case shines a harsh light on the systemic issues surrounding face recognition technology and its use by law enforcement. Despite the well-documented flaws in this technology, it's still being rolled out across the country with alarming speed. And Robert's not the only one. There have been other cases where face recognition led to wrongful arrests, and each time, the consequences are devastating. The technology is often used in secret, without any real oversight, so people don't even know they're being watched, let alone that they've been misidentified by a machine. This lack of transparency is a major concern. Law enforcement agencies often deploy this technology without proper checks and balances, and when mistakes happen, they're not always quick to admit it. In Robert's case, it was only because of an offhand comment from an officer during his interrogation that he even knew the arrest was due to face recognition. If that officer hadn't said anything, Robert might have never known why his life was turned upside down. Civil rights organizations like the ACLU are fighting hard against the use of face recognition in law enforcement, and for good reason. The potential for abuse is enormous. Today, it's being used to wrongfully arrest innocent people like Robert. Tomorrow, it could be used to track and suppress minority communities, activists, or anyone the government doesn't like. When you add a biased and flawed technology to a criminal justice system that's already riddled with problems, the result is a tool that can be used to enforce systemic racism and oppression more efficiently than ever before. It's pretty clear that something needs to change, and it needs to change fast. Robert Williams' story isn't just a one-off nightmare, it's a wake-up call. We're living in a time where technology is advancing at breakneck speed. And while that can be a good thing, it also means we have to be really careful about how we use it, especially when it comes to something as serious as law enforcement. The use of face recognition technology by police has shown us just how dangerous it can be when it's wrong, and that's why there's an urgent need for legislative action to put a stop to it. Lawmakers need to step in and halt the use of face recognition technology in law enforcement, at least until we can figure out how to make it safe and fair. Right now, it's anything but. The risk of wrongful arrests, especially for people of color, is just too high. We've already seen what happens when the technology fails. Innocent people like Robert get caught in the crosshairs of a broken system. And let's be honest, it's not just about the technology being flawed, it's also about protecting our civil liberties. So, what are your thoughts on this? Let us know in the comments below.